I've been shooting with the Lumix S5II right around a year now, and today I want to go through all of my customized function button settings that I use to keep all of my critical settings right at my fingertips. I believe the only two buttons which are not customizable are the playback button here in the upper left and the display button in the bottom right, but everything else you can set to do pretty much whatever you want to. There's a list of things you choose from, but it's an extensive list. And I'm first going to show you where you go to find that list. So here you're going to go into your menu, into settings, and then over here on operation, on the first menu, function button set, FN button set, and you tap there, and then you set it for whether in the playback mode or the recording mode. I'm going to select recording mode, and then you have all of these, call outs pointing to all the different buttons. And this is on the back of the camera, the top of the camera, and then also the front of the camera, actually including the function menu, which you can pull up, which I haven't set anything custom in there. And the third page here is for the joystick and the dial settings for hitting left, right, up, down on these two buttons here. So to customize a button, we would tap on the button itself, and then we can cycle through 3 pages of menus of all the different options we have to choose from for that button. And there are multiple pages even within each of these numbers here. So in this case, I want to have this set to be my level gauge, and so I have that selected. If you wanted to have it be your histogram toggling on and off, you could tap that and have it be the histogram, and so forth. So first of all, on the right side, we have the back button or the delete button, and I have that set to be my level gauge assist. I just toggle that on and off. Pretty much always I leave that level gauge on, but once in a while it's nice to be able to toggle that off to be able to see the shot better, as the case may be. In the upper left, the viewfinder button here is what it was originally. I never ever use the viewfinder. I don't do enough photography to make a lot of use of that. I'm pretty much always using the screen. So I have this set to be my focus peaking to toggle that on and off. So if I toggle that, you might be able to see on my screen here, the blue peaks in the screen on the keyboard there. And if I toggle this, it turns them off. And this can be handy. That the focus peaking is nice to be able to tell what's in focus, but sometimes if you're trying to nail the exposure, it can kind of mess with your ability to see what's exposed properly, what's overexposed and stuff like that. So sometimes it's nice to be able to toggle that off. Across the top here, I've left these to be their default. So we have white balance, ISO, and the exposure compensation, which you would use if you were in one of the auto modes here. I like that the ISO button has little tactile bumps on it so you can feel which one it is, because I'm always going to that ISO a little more frequently than I am the white balance. Also, just FYI, I have my record button set to be the shutter button rather than the dedicated record button. It's just simpler for me to have it up here instead of moving my finger back to hit the big red button. That's just a personal preference thing, obviously, as are all of these custom settings. The settings that I use the most, I have mapped to the 4 buttons on the dial here. So up, I have my go-to high E stabilization. Just hit it up once and over twice, and I'm right there in E stabilization high mode. I use it all the time, but not for everything, because it does punch in on the video, and sometimes I just don't want that much stabilization. So it's really nice to have it accessible here. I can just toggle back and forth like so. So that's super handy. On the down button of the dial, I have the boost mode for stabilization, and this is not a dynamic stabilization mode. This is what you use if you want to lock off a handheld shot to make it look like a tripod, basically, with no movement at all. So nice to have that, easy to toggle on, push off. To the left, I have stabilization off entirely. So if I want a totally handheld shot, or once in a while if I'm shooting on a gimbal, I'll turn the stabilization off, but I have that easily accessible right there. And then to the right, I'm always going to this as well, I have my detecting subject autofocus controls. So we have human, animal, car, motorcycle, and then your face, eye, flash face, or eye, face, and body controls. I find myself going between human and car quite a bit when I'm filming on overlanding trips, because I'm jumping between filming interviews and then filming the trucks going by and stuff pretty frequently. So nice to have these settings right here accessible when I need them. Sticking with autofocus settings, here is of course your toggle between autofocus settings and manual focus. Then if you're in an autofocus mode, I haven't changed this setting. This is just the default, I believe. You tap this and it brings up your autofocus modes. You have your tracking, full area, your zone autofocus. Basically, I leave it pretty much in full area autofocus all the time, but mostly what I'm doing in here is toggling on and off the human detection or animal detection, whichever mode I have it in, car detection, and that's gonna tell it whether to focus in on the subject or whether to just get a whatever the camera thinks should be in focus disregarding humans or cars or whatever. So I hit the up button to turn that on and off. So I'm going in there all the time as well. I have not customized the joystick too much, but in manual focus mode, I do have the quick press on the joystick button set to be the manual focus assist, which punches in on the video. You could have it set on the focus ring, so it brings up a super punched in view every time that you go to manually focus with the ring. That can be a little distracting and kind of mess you up a little bit. So I like to have the ability to turn it on if I need it. I can punch in and focus a little bit better, a little more precisely, but then I can tap that again and get out of it for when I'm actually filming the shot. The autofocus on button is just default. It is when I'm in manual focus, I can tap that and it autofocuses real quick. And then last but definitely not least, the Q button here is also just the default, but I want to run quickly through the settings that I have set up in my quick menu because these are the ones that I'm going to all the time, like some of my most common settings, besides toggling stabilization, I'd say. So I'll go into it here. First of all, I have focus peaking here as well. I have the record file format. So if I needed to, I could toggle between MP4 and MOV really quickly from right here. I pretty much shoot everything in MOV though, because it gives you the most file format options. And then right here next to it, I have my record quality, my list, okay? So this is my favorites basically that I have selected from the record quality full list. And I'll show you that real quick. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go into menu right here, over to video, image format, record quality, and you have dozens of record quality settings. So this is a lot to scroll through if you just want to switch over real quick from, say, 4K 24 up to, you want to go to 6K open gate. You got to scroll all the way through all of these to get up to 6K 24 open gate. But if you hit the Q button right here, it says add to list, and that will, if I were to hit that, it would go and add it to my my list of record quality settings. And in here I just have 6 options just to keep it really basic. So this is for a 24 frames per second shooting workflow. So if I go in here, I can toggle through with the scroll wheel here. I have first of all 4K 60, then 4K 30, 4K 24, which is where I'm living most all the time, Full HD 120, which I use for any super slow motion needs. This doesn't have 4K 120, which is too bad, but you do have 1080p 120. Then 6K 24 frames per second if I want to swap over to some open gate recording real quick for the highest possible resolution. And then 4K 48. And I mostly switch between 4K 24 and 4K 48. I kind of like 48 frames per second for a nice, clean 50% speed slow motion in post. And if you end up not doing slow motion, it's going to play back a little bit smoother on that clip at 24 frames per second than if you were using a 60 frames per second video. You won't have any dropped frames and stuff. It just looks a little bit cleaner to me. So that's my record quality favorites. I have here, you can select the photo style. I pretty much always shoot on the natural profile for myself or for clients, but once in a while I'll shoot in some vlog or with the real-time LUT. And this brings me to my go-to feature that I use all of the time. I'm always toggling this on and off, and that is the image area of video. I have it set to this 5th option right here. So this is a full frame camera, but you have the ability to pop it into an APS-C crop mode, which you can see in the little preview there, punches in a little bit on the video. And so it gives you a little bit of extra reach on your zoom. Since I'm only shooting on a 20-60 lens most of the time right now, though I do want to get a 24-70 at some point, it's really nice to have a little bit more telephoto reach that you can get by switching it into a Super 35/APS-C crop mode. Zebra pattern I have right here as well, don't use that too much. Sound record level adjust. I have this set here because once in a while, if I'm switching between microphones, for instance, sometimes going between a lapel mic or a shotgun mic, you might need to make some quick adjustments here to the gain. So I have that set there, easily accessible. I don't use the highlights or shadows control here. Those are just the defaults from the Q menu. Sharpness, same thing. Silent mode I have set here so I can quickly pop it into silent mode to keep the camera nice and quiet if I'm shooting at a wedding or some kind of event. Most of the time, I don't mind if the camera's beeping at me. And then metering mode, again, just the default from the Q menu defaults. And just a little bonus, the dial assignments I have here are aperture for the front dial and the shutter speed / shutter angle is what I have it set to right now, but shutter angle for the back dial. And then if I hit the ISO button, I use that back dial to adjust the ISO. I just realized I forgot to mention the handy little button on the front of the camera. That's really convenient and super accessible, so you should probably put your
favorite and most frequent setting there. I have mine set to be the waveform monitor, but I honestly don't use that a whole lot. So if you have that button set to something custom, comment down below and let me know what you do. Maybe it'll give me a good idea for what to set that to.
So there you go, that is my down and dirty quick run through of my button customizations on my S5II. If you want to check out this camera, be sure to use my link in the description below because it helps support me, which is awesome. Appreciate that. And next you should watch this video right here, which is one that YouTube thinks that you will like. And I think you'll like it too because it's a really great video, whatever it is. I will see you over there.